Hey team, Lawrence here. Welcome to the next AIRTOC demo. Today we're focusing in on one of the most important deliverables in the entire project lifecycle, the project charter. Let's go ahead and get started. In this lesson, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what the charter is, why it's absolutely essential during project initiation, and how it guides the rest of your project. Then we'll jump into live demos where I'll show you exactly how to generate a complete professional project charter using the AIRTOC framework. And we're also going to use our AIMPM project management coach, which is a custom GPT that we created for students of this program. Let's go. So we always like to start off with definitions, and PMI defines the project charter as a document issued by the project initiator or sponsor that formally authorizes the existence of a project and provides the project manager with authority to apply organizational resources to project activities. This is a good definition, but there's a bit more to consider when it comes down to drafting your project charter. At AIMPM, we define the project charter in a bit of a different way. We look at it as the primary output for the initiation phase. It's what formally authorizes the project and the assigned resources, and it's often called the project's contract or even the birth certificate because it officially signals the organization has approved the project to move forward. One of the key things to remember here is that the charter is a strategic foundation. It's not a plan or a solution. In the charter, we're not going to get into detailed schedules, budgets, or task breakdowns here. The charter simply sets the direction, it provides a purpose, and it defines the boundaries. If you find yourself solutioning in the charter, you're probably doing the wrong thing. A strong project charter is going to help you align your stakeholders, it's going to reduce ambiguity on the project, it's going to help you define your authority as the project manager so that you can control resources, it's going to help you set expectations, it's going to establish the scope, and it's going to help ensure that the project's actually feasible. Business uses this document to make decisions on whether or not a project should move forward or not. When a project starts without a charter, teams will run into confusion, mismatched assumptions, and endless rework. Why? Because no one ever aligned on what the project actually was in the first place. The charter helps you eliminate that. Now, these are some of my favorite slides in the entire presentations. The funnels are intended to show you how these deliverables actually work and are produced in the real world. The logic is simple to follow. What goes into the top of the funnel filters down into your final output. So in regard to the charter, the funnel flows like this. The PM gains an understanding of the purpose, the boundaries, and the expectations by writing a charter. That charter allows leadership to compare the proposed project to other competing initiatives that may be in play. If the project has priority over other efforts, the charter will help leadership validate the investment and the scope of work. And this is how you gain approval to move forward on your project. The charter is the basis for saying, yes, we should spend money on this, or no, the initiative doesn't align with our goals. Without the charter, again, leadership lacks important information that they need to make an objective decision. Now that you understand what a charter is and why it matters, let's walk through how to actually generate one using AIRTOC. We'll take the AIRTOC framework you learned in the last lesson and we'll apply it step by step to create a complete project charter using the AIMPM project management coach. Let's go. Okay, team, before we get started, there's just a few things that we need to make sure you know. For the sake of time and simplicity, we're going to be using simulated minimal data. In real projects, you're most likely going to have far more context associated with your prompts. But even with this simplified data, you'll still see how powerful AIRTOC prompts can be. But remember the golden rule here. The more context you add, the better your outputs are going to be. Lastly, this process applies to every AIRTOC template in the textbook. The workflow is universal and repeatable across all deliverables. Let's go ahead and dive in. Okay, so let me give you a brief overview of how this demonstration is going to work. There's really 4 components that go into it. The first piece here is the actual AIRTOC template that you're going to see inside of your textbooks as well as your AIRTOC template library. This is the same information that you find there, so we just copy and paste it in. Second, we have an actual real-world scenario that applies to, in this case, drafting a project charter. Right, so we'll cover this scenario, and from this scenario, we're going to get some data, and that data ends up being the simulation data that we're going to use inside of the prompt. All right, so again, a brief example, simulated minimal data, but you'll see how powerful AIRTOC is once we submit it. Once we have this prompt, we'll go ahead and submit that to our AIMPM project management coach and seek the result. Ready? Let's go. Okay, so let's start with the AIRTOC template for the project charter. On the left-hand side here, you have your AI platform, the role, the task, the output, and your context. Below that, you have AI produces, which again is really just an example of what AI should produce once you submit your prompt. So in this example, our AI platform is going to be ChatGPT or Gemini. The role is going to be a project manager or a project sponsor. And again, we put these roles here for you. We fill out as much of this template for you as possible for you guys to get a really good idea of what you need to submit here for this prompt to work. Okay, and in this case, it's going to be the project manager or the project sponsor that drafts up the project charter. Next, you have a task, which is to draft the project charter, including the problem statement, objectives, risks, constraints, stakeholders, and success measures. And lastly, your output here, which is a structured charter draft. Now, the context, again, is where a lot of the drive is going to come from when it comes to this prompt. And I have two different areas here, inputs for context as well as data, and they mean different things. Your inputs for context is really high-level project information. So these are things like your problem and opportunity statement, your baseline problem and goal, your scope statement, some constraints, some risks, some stakeholders, success measures. These are things that you're going to need to draft for your charter anyway, but if you can get them inside of the context box here for inputs and context, it's really going to help. Next, you have your data section, and we also try to guide you in which types of data you may want to include inside your project charter. So there's process data, performance data, resource data, financial data, compliance data, organizational data, really any data that is relevant in terms of what you need to draft your charter. And again, these will be other pieces of documentation or notes that you've taken in other places that need to get added in as context. Things like baselines and KPIs or benchmarks, staffing information, vendor agreements, lots of other pieces of information. This could be contracts that actually need to go in, right? And so this is the data that you'll add. And again, you can add this data in a number of different ways. You can write it up high level. You can copy and paste the actual document in. You can write up a summary. There's a lot of different ways that you can get this data in. But no matter what, you want to make sure you're including that as part of your context. Okay, let's move on to the scenario so that we can get an idea of what we need to actually draft up here for our project charter. Leadership has raised concerns about slow manual approval workflows across operations, finance, HR, and compliance, averaging 7.4 days and generating high rework, 18%, and data errors of 12%. There was an internal audit and they found some poor traceability and inconsistent documentation. The CIO confirmed that IT could support the project, but with limited bandwidth of only about 40%. Financial modeling showed that the opportunity is significant for ROI by year 4. And the sponsor directed the project manager to produce a project charter that defines the problem, the objectives, the scope boundaries, constraints, risks, stakeholders, and success measures to formally initiate the program. Let's see how this looks inside of an AIRTOC template. Now here you see an example of the actual information inside of the AIRTOC template. And again, it is in red and broken out with an additional row here for data inputs just to make it a little bit easier for you guys to read. All right, and this is the simulation data here. So what we're going to be able to do is copy and paste this information into the AIMPM project management coach. But before we do that, right, I just want you guys to get a gander of where this information is going in. Again, we're going to make sure that you have some guidance in terms of the information that you need to put into this prompt. All you have to do is go out and retrieve that information. Okay, so once we add everything in, we're going to come right back to the top here and we're going to copy this prompt and we're going to go to our project management coach. And again, we're just going to paste it in. No other additional prompts needed. The AIMPM project management coach knows what to do when it sees an AIRTOC template. So let's go ahead and hit enter. It'll think for a second, and then it'll start to draft out a project charter for us, okay? All right, so what do we have here? The sponsor is the CFO, project manager to be assigned. It's probably gonna be you, right? You haven't named yourself just yet, so this is the first draft. It's gonna give us a purpose and background, problem statement, project objectives, the project scope, deliverables, constraints, assumptions. It breaks out a few risks, key stakeholders, governance and roles, success measures, high-level timeline, financial summary, even a couple of approval lines. Okay. Now, again, I can also take this information and get AI to produce a Word document for me or a PDF for me for charter approval, right? But essentially, this is a 80 to 90% complete deliverable. I don't need to go back and iterate very much through this because I gave it enough context in the beginning to draft a complete charter. This is something that you can take directly to an executive after you've done your review. And for the most part, you should have a complete document that's ready to go. This again is the power of AIRTOC. When you feed context and the proper information to the proper AI, it can work wonders for you. Okay? Looking forward to seeing you guys in the next demonstration. Until then, take care and I'll see you soon.